Welcome to the online user group Work Smarter, Not Harder, and today's session will be focusing on the controller's job. Getting into it, what does it mean when we say work smarter, not harder? Certainly breaking it down to being more efficient. How can we spend more time uh, producing high quality results, but wasting less of our time doing that? How are you spending your time? Is there a more efficient way I can be doing this and still get the same or better results, but without investing as much time into it? And to aid you in determining that, basically you're going to look at three aspects of this. First of all, are we using all the resources available to us? Is there any way we can avoid potential rework? And prioritizing the information that we're dealing with. So in regard to resources, it may be that you're not using all the resources available, and it could be because you're just not aware that certain resources are available within the system. So as an example they give here, you're spending 2 hours creating a report through Excel and re-entering information when in fact you can get those same results in 30 minutes by using one of the report generators in Jonas. Rework. This is a big one for a lot of clients where basically can we avoid multiple people re-entering the same information multiple times? So do I have someone who's recording sales and then someone else is punching that into Excel sheet who then gives it to someone else who gets posted into Jonas? Well, there might be a way of circumventing that. For instance, in that example, maybe there's a way to take that initial list and upload it. Because of course, every time there's a rework or a re-entry, you run the risk of human error creeping into it. And then our last piece, which is priority. So prioritize the stuff that you're spending the time on. So this also deals with, for instance, in the example, we're talking about delegation. So, it doesn't make any sense that the AR manager is the one doing all of that setup of specials and the menu design when in fact it's the frontline people and the dining room managers are the ones that know what should be in there. We can give them access to do that, but not to the full back of house. Okay. Some of the processes that regularly occur when you're from the controller standpoint on the accounting side are recurring billings and postings, members with an outstanding balance or delinquency, user right access, and financial reporting. So recurring billing and postings. So to help with that, for instance, there's something called an upload charges, third-party POS upload. And this basically allows you to upload from Excel charges directly to the members' accounts. There are certain things that you can automate. Now, this automation deals with extra module called Club Automation, where you can tell the system to automatically run a specific upload. If you have Hotel Manager, run the night audit automatically every night, and remote point of sale Chits to be brought over automatically. So it's like a scheduling. Okay. For the third-party POS upload, you basically need to create a file. Now, when you first come in here to the third-party POS upload, which is actually located underneath the processing menu right near the bottom, the very first time you use it, it'll ask you for the format. There's two Jonas generic formats. Normally, this is the one you want, which is with descriptions. That just gives you the ability to upload the description from the Excel sheet into the member records as well. This gives you more flexibility. Now, basically, when you create this file, it has to be according to the specs we require. Now that you can get by going in there and clicking the specs button. It'll describe what it's looking for. It's basically about 4 or 5 columns, not a huge amount of information required. So we can take a quick look at that if we go to Club Management, Processing, Third-Party POS Upload. So with descriptions, and then the specs button will actually tell you how we want it laid out. It's pretty straightforward. Now, the key thing when you're doing it from Excel is that this must be saved as a text file, tab limited, or a CSV, comma delimited file for the upload to work. Now, basically, once you've picked the file that you want to upload, this date is the date of record. Now, it really depends on this flag that you're coming to next. If I'm uploading charges and I'm fine with them all posting the same date on the member file, then I can just leave this date to be the date of record. But if I'm uploading a week's worth of charges, you probably want to use this flag, which means it ignores this date and it uses the date that's actually in the Excel upload sheet. Now, the preview report as opposed to update, it really doesn't matter which one of these you pick, because even if you pick update, it's not actually going to update it. There's another screen that pops up where you dictate whether or not you want to preview or post. So for this purposes, this doesn't matter what this is set to. So basically, once you click OK on that screen, it will actually open the chip processing menu and populate it with all the information from the Excel sheet. And on this screen, you have the ability to do a preview or a post. And that's why I was saying that first screen, it doesn't matter whether you pick update or preview. If you pick update, it's still going to go to this screen and you still have the ability to exit without it actually posting. Now, the club automation that we were talking about, this is an extra module available from Jonas, but you can set up a schedule for when this is going to run. So basically, you tell it which program. Now, you don't have to know the name of the program. The lookup will give you the specific description of the program, night audit, point of sale import, whatever. It can be set up to run as a service. Normally, we do recommend that with any of these automated runs, because the problem is if it's not set up as a service, then this terminal that I'm telling to run the event, which is normally set up on the server, if it's not signed in, it won't run. Whereas if it's set up as a service, this workstation does not have to be logged into Jonas. It just runs in the background. So basically, you pick the date and time. So you set up the program, what terminal it's going to run on, and the user that's going to run it. And then you click date and time, which will then give you the scheduling. So I can say every day at 4 a.m., I want you to run this. And then it'll ask you, for instance, if you want to use this to automatically update a file, then you can preset it. Now, the key for this automatic upload is obviously the location and file name has to be the same every single time, because Jonas is always going to run this and look for that date or that file and location. So this is just an idea of some of the options for automation. Now, as it says here, you cannot automate the POS end of day update. that requires a user intervention. So how about generating some information with members with outstanding balances or delinquency? So one of the things is you can have the system go through, and anyone with outstanding balance greater than 30 days, you can have it automatically change their status. You can have the system email when a member has a point of sale chit open to them, or just send an email blast telling them, hey, you're past due. So outstanding balances, to change the member status, you basically go to Club Management, Member File, Alter Member Status. Now you have to be careful because there's actually two options in that screen for Alter Member. There's Alter Member Status 1 and 2. The one we're talking about is Alter Member Status number 1. Basically, you set the rule. So basically, the rule would be balance over $1,000 in 90 days or over. I want you to change it to delinquent. Now, this will by default do it for everyone, but if you want to, you can click on exceptions and tell it, but don't do it for these member types. So the other way is to have you be notified when that member has come in and they open a ticket in the pro shop, fitness, food and beverage side. So basically you can indicate who is to be emailed when that chit is opened, and then you can design the actual text of the email to be sent. So basically you dictate what it is, you say up to 5 people it gets emailed to, and then you can basically list the members that you want to be notified of. You can import these members from an Excel sheet as well. So if you're using our club broadcast system, you can also do it via an email shot. You can basically schedule it based on the same criteria as the change status. Members over a certain value in 60 days, 90 days, I want you to send a standard email out for them so that each month it just does it automatically. It also, with Club Broadcast, not only sends the email and allows you to schedule it, but it also reports back how many of them actually received the email, how many opened it, how many deleted it, how many went to spam, that type of thing. So the other thing we're talking about is user access, controlling what access they get. So one of the things we have is group security. So rather than setting user rights by each individual user, you can have a group, and then each user is linked to the group and they inherit all the rights of that group. And just as it says here, if you add a new module or decide to change the functionality, you're going to allow people to void or take away their rights to void. Rather than having to do it for each one, you can do it for the group, which then feeds out to all the people linked to that group. So basically every user, you still set them up the same way, but rather than having to go into all the sub-screens for each one of them, you just basically will link them to the appropriate group. So I can have a group for food and beverage servers, which has all their rights, all their menu access. And so basically when I set up a new server, I don't have to go into any of these sub screens. I just have to link them to the group. Now setting up the groups are the same. It's basically the same screen you're currently using for setting up users. It's the exact same screen. So you set by menu design, so what they see. You can go to POS access, see if they can void or not. So it's exactly the same, except you're setting up a group instead of each individual. Now, on the financial reports package, we have this thing called report queue. Now, the idea behind the report queue is it allows you to set up a set of reports that people can run rather than having to pick the 3 or 4 reports they want. You can preset it as a specific queue, and these are the reports we want to run. Now, obviously, when you run them, it will still ask you for, date of the period that you want to run it for, that type of thing. Where do you want to print it? It just allows you the ability to set a specific listing of reports. So the other thing is that this report queue will only work for reports that you have developed in the quick setup financials, not the master gen. So basically, managed consolidated report queue, you can have as many queues as you want in here. So you could have one, for instance, for the general manager, which runs these specific reports. The idea being, rather than the general manager having to go into company financial statements and picking the reports they want, and sometimes they're not sure which ones, let's say, then they can just go right to the queue and basically pick their set of reports, which loads them all in automatically. He just gives, or she just gives the period they want it for, click OK, and pick the printer where they want it to go to. Now, the other thing you can do by running it through the report queue, you can dictate how it's going to format when it prints the reports, because you could set your own printer style for the financials. Now, what the printer style basically allows you to do is, for instance, tell it to always print in landscape, even though it might fit to portrait perfectly fine. You can also dictate fonts and colors and bold, italic, and underline for the titles, the headings, etc. Now that design is done through system administration, system setup, printer styles. So if you want the financials to be printed in a certain way, you could have in here a printer style called financial statements, where you can go to prefs and basically say, okay, well, I always want it in landscape, regardless of how it goes. And this is how I want you to print it. I want to use this font, bold, underline, italics for the main heading, which is the very top, like the club name, financial statement name, the column heading, so month to date, year to date, etc. Subheadings, if you have any, the body of the text, and the footers. So you can basically dictate whatever you want. And if you're doing a color printer, you can also play with the colors as well. Now, keep in mind throughout all of that, you also have the ability to not have a printer style and just export to Excel where you can reformat. So, okay. And that's it.